are the solutions and services that are available? That is one. And the other question I'd like to ask, what you mentioned are a lot of these unstructured data, and these would be coming also from very heterogeneous kind of sources.
Right.
Now, even to analyze that and gain meaningful insights from that,
Right.
and these will be critical business insights,
Right.
what sort of standardization or uniformity mechanism is there? Because unless there is no form of standardization, maybe the insights derived might not be that meaningful. So, how are you
Absolutely.
handling that?
So very valid question. Let me start with your first point on more around our offering, and then I'll come to this point because what you raised is a very valid point. So, we offer our flagship product is named FinStinct. It's like finance and instinct put together, right? Because there's some amount of instinct that we are training the machine with, which is what the human mind does, right? And FinStinct is focused on solving the problem of information overload from unstructured documents. 80% of the information that is used for decision making in financial institutions is coming from very unstructured sources, right? So it's these dark pools of complex, unstructured documents or social media or news, right? Which is where, 80% of the information resides. What we have done so far is we have scratched the tip of the iceberg, which is more in the structured data, which is residing in the form of your MIS engines and data warehousing engines. But what is going to be a differentiator now is this, right? It's the unstructured sources and extracting that information from these sources. So FinStinct focuses on this problem. It brings the power of AI and machine learning to identify what is relevant, extract it, structure it, and analyze it. Now, that's the core strength of FinStinct. Now, coming to your second point, which is a very valid point. So one thing that we've done is, the team comprises of people who work with banks and financial institutions. So we understand this domain. Second, most important thing is that it's focused on one domain. It's not that we are saying that we are offering an intelligent solution which can cover healthcare also and which can cover hospitality business also, as well as the financial services. We are focused only on the financial services. That's what we do. We don't do anything outside that. As a result of that, now that is, that brings out a very big difference, and it addresses your question to an extent. That we are, because we are focused only on the financial services, the models that are created are domain-centric models, are business domain-centric models. And because our boundary is defined, we can go, it gives us the flexibility or the luxury to go deep into that single domain, right? Had it been a generic solution which is offering intelligence, which can cover hospitality as well as healthcare, as well as financial services, it would not have been possible. So we believe that the world today is at a point, or these technologies today are at a point where business domain-centric solutions, you can add a lot of value. For instance, if you have to identify a balance sheet, or if you have to identify a P&L from a document, right? Typically, these are 200-pager documents or 300-pager documents, right? The system can be trained to understand where is a balance sheet, where is a P&L, where are the cash flows, where are the notes to accounts, and it can pull those details out. Some of the intelligence that is built into the system is, of course, generic. Like, for instance, we have the ability to identify the structure of the document, which is the first step that you have to do. Because if you to, you first have to identify where is the text, where are the tables, where do you have form type of documents. Typically, the documents these days are fairly complex, and you have a combination of all these. So you need an engine which can broadly understand that, look, I have hit textual portions. I have hit a table here. The table starts here, ends here. This is a complex table. It has merged cells. It has merged columns and stuff like that. So that is the first level of intelligence that comes in, right? And post that comes in layers of intelligence after that. That is, you have to understand that this table is a balance sheet. This table is a P&L. You pull out those details from a balance sheet and from a P&L. Then comes the next step of standardizing the balance sheet and standardizing the P&L, because the nomenclatures which are used by different organizations would be different, right? Once you standardize it, that's when meaningful analysis can be done. That's when you can, you can create ratios out of it, and then start comparing two organizations. So that's where things start becoming meaningful, right? So partly to address your question, I would say that we have a very strong focus only on the financial services. We are people who have who have thorough experience within this particular business domain, and that's why it's possible for us to build models which go deep into the domain. Rajnish, sorry, I am not able to hear. Yeah.
Then, what I was asking, the next question you mentioned about you working with the banks and the financial institutions. So, typically, what I would like to understand is one, how is the operating model with the banks and these whatever the financial institutions, and one is the operating model, and two is understanding from your perspective the business model also. So the operating and the business model, how you work with the banks.
Right. So I think very good question. Because we are in the financial services domain, uh, the security of data becomes very important. It's of paramount importance. Um, we have heard of banks and financial institutions, NBFCs, stock exchanges talk about the importance of data security. When it comes to document security, the focus is levels higher because these documents are contractual documents, regulatory documents. Many times these are, between two counterparties, as a result of which this information is not like easily available and cannot go out. Many times for regulatory reasons, these documents first have to hit a particular financial institution. They have to be processed for out there, and then only can they become public, right? So as a result of which, the security of the documents becomes very important. Now that has an impact on the way we operate. In the sense, um, as a solution provider, we are open to both a cloud-based model as well as an on-premise model, because for our clients, security is of paramount importance, and for all the right reasons. So we are open to a deployment on premise as well. However, some of the documents are public. They're publicly available. So if you look at the rating updates from rating agencies, right? We have 7 rating agencies in India, and these rating updates keep coming out on almost on a daily basis, right? You have exchange notifications, right, which are coming
Mhm.
out on the exchanges, right? So they're available on the website of these bodies. And as a result of that, or even if it is any other piece of information which is available on a website, right? Those are the cases, those are the use cases where we find people in our client segments being very open to using services on the cloud, right? However, when it comes to things like contractual documents, bank guarantees, right, or regulatory documents, or there are a whole lot of documents which are confidential in nature, legal agreements. That is when the client segments in which we operate in, they prefer it to be an on-premise solution. So that's the first thing that in our operations, we are very clear that we are open to both on-premise as well as on cloud. Um, uh, the way we offer support as of now, it has been a remote support to most of the institutions, and they're fine with that because our access to the servers becomes important only when there is an issue. And there are ways and means by which all that access is tracked and monitored, right? So anything that we do on the server is automatically tracked, which is a security measure which is put in place. Now, the in terms of the impact on our business models. So we go in for various ways in which we engage with our customers. Many a times we give volume-based pricing because people would want to engage with us based on the kind of volume of documents that they are processing through our systems. Many times people are interested in knowing their budget upfront, in which case we offer an annual fee, right? So we are open to commercial models which are both volume based as well as an annual fee based. We've also had in some cases people asking us for the old school way of going for a perpetual license, and we've done that as well. But primarily what we are seeing is that there is a volume based approach, and then there is a annual fee based approach, and we pretty much follow we are very open to both the models.
Okay, so one, I'd like a little bit clarification on this, since you are saying fairly it's proportional, almost equally proportional between volume based and the perpetual license model. So are you seeing a trend towards shift from the perpetual license model? That is one part. Second, you touched upon security. So, security is a critical issue anyway,
Right,
since you are dealing with so much critical financial information. So, I would
right,
like you to elaborate a little bit more on the security. And another part is many of these information required are very dynamic and real time,
right.
exchange related information. In terms of, and since you are accessing the servers of these banks and FIs, in terms of, and though while the connectivity has improved drastically, but still, is there sometime the challenge to this dynamic real-time data access? Is that a challenge? Connectivity sometimes, so security, connectivity, and in terms of the shift from a perpetual license model.
Right. So let's take the shift from perpetual license first. Uh, that is pretty much happening, because as we see the perpetual license model, I think very rarely do we come across organizations wanting a perpetual license model. Many times it's like having a clear capex upfront, and post that we just have to deal with the opex. Uh, Most of the cases that we see uh, are of, I would say, kind of half and a half between a fixed opex, which is a fixed annual subscription fee, versus a volume based pricing, right? Because these are both cases where the risk of the client organization greatly goes down, right? Because with the upfront capex, the risk is that much higher, right? So the shift, I would say, has already happened, right? In some cases, yes, there is this requirement that let's do a capex upfront so that we're done with it, and then after that, the a very small component of opex is going to be there in terms of the maintenance and support, right? Which is largely an ongoing activity, right? So that was the first part of your point. Security, I would say, is a very important aspect because when you are operating on premise, it is extremely important for the clients to be reasonably certain that their data is not going to be misused in a certain manner, right? Which is why these servers are automatically monitored, right? So whenever there is an issue for which we need to get into it, we are given access to that server, and whatever we do within that window for which the access has been provided, in that window, every action that is taken by us is automatically tracked, right? And there are tools and technologies which are there in the security space which have made the security processes a lot more efficient. So the moment we fire a command which might be a little suspicious, it immediately goes to to a team which is monitoring it. So there are tons of commands which are coming in. So their intelligence systems are also trying to figure out which user is trying to do what. And again, this is a case of mind and machine coming together. Anything which is found suspicious is raised to the monitoring team. And immediately, you can expect a call almost immediately that the support team will get in terms of why we believe that you fired these commands. Why have you fired these commands? Can you please tell us the reason? So it's like having a CCTV on, right? And a CCTV which is backed by an intelligent system, an AI-based system which can detect suspicious activities and only bubble up those to the monitoring team. So that's the kind of security controls and measures that are there on these servers, which is the right thing to do as well. So that was more on the security part of it. The last part that you raised was connectivity. I think it's a very valid point especially in the time of pandemic, right? The world has changed, and there are a whole lot of changes which have happened in the way we work. And as I see, we are not going to go back. At least the workforce is not going to go back to exactly the same model. Maybe it may not be the pandemic model. Maybe it will be the hybrid model. We'll see what happens. But it's not going to be. It's not going to be like going back to the pre Feb 2020 mode, right? And now comes the aspect of connectivity. Yes, at times, with people operating remotely from different locations, there can be concerns and issues on connectivity. And many a times, what we do is, we make sure that people have the right access, right, and right kind of bandwidth so that they can connect from their home locations and reach out to these servers. So these are things which are changing and are evolving, and we also kind of have to be open to such changes. And we also have to kind of evolve to ensure that each and every person in the team has the right connectivity to access these servers, right? Yes, we did notice that many times people faced connectivity challenges, and the interesting thing was that everybody understood that. Even the clients understood that there is a connectivity challenge that the other person is facing. And people have been flexible on both sides, right? But yes, we I would say that we would have to evolve as organizations, and as a country, and as organizations also, we have to evolve and come up with mechanisms where better connectivity is provided. As of now, yes, a lot of flexibility has helped from all sides, but yes, we need to improve on that as well.
Thanks. There is another important issue on the regulatory compliances, but I'll talk to it later. Before that, I have a question more on the business side. Business side,
Sure.
one is a question is which are some of the marquee banks or FIs that you are working with currently, and what is your go-to-market model, the strategy basically?
Okay. So, yeah, very interesting point. So, we are working with some of the leading financial institutions, right? So, National Stock Exchange is the biggest customer for us. Our engagement with National Stock Exchange started 3 years back, and over a period of time, it has evolved, and it has moved up the strategy ladder. So National Stock Exchange is a strategic investor in the organization as well. So I think that is a very key relationship that we have. Other than that, we work with some of the large financial institutions like DMI Finance, like IIFL, um, There are some key large private sector banks that we are working with. Um, Globally, we started our engagement with a company called SmartStream. This engagement we started last year. So SmartStream is an organization present in US and Europe, and they offer data to global banks and hedge funds, right? And we play a key role in some of the data streams by automating the content repository for them. So something which was being done manually earlier is now being pulled from the different websites and converted into a structured data and be pushed to them. So our clients are primarily large financial institutions who have processes which rely on huge amount of document processing, right? Now, that is the first part. To coming to the second part of your question in terms of what are the plans in terms of go to market, right? So we are very clear that we built this IP in India, and we've got some initial customers in India, and India is a place where we are going to continue with our focus. We are also now increasing our focus to clients outside India, and for achieving that, we are going through partners which are large organizations, um, large technology organizations whose services are being complemented by our offering, right? So basically, they are catering to the same client segment, right? They have business verticals which are focused on the banking and financial services segment, and they offer services which are complementary to our offering, right? So as a team, we go and we've started pitching to financial institutions outside India, and we intend continuing on that path to grow the business globally.
Okay, since as you mentioned that you have ventured globally also, and now multiple geographies will have different regulations
Right,
and different I may say compliances are required, and especially in the financial thing, these compliances are very critical. So,
right.
how do you ensure when so there can be clients who might have same client might have been presence in multiple geographies, and
Right.
you were saying you're working with some of those private banks, maybe some of this global. So, how do you ensure the compliance?
Mhm.
Conformance to these compliances in multiple geographies.
Right. So, the regulatory compliance is a very important aspect. And for us, uh, more than just the technology system complying, we come into the picture where we are understanding the regulatory documents and making a sense of those. So, which was earlier being done manually. For instance, we've just completed a POC with a very large institution in Thailand, wherein we were working on Thai documents, regulatory documents, right? And from our side, we were new to those reports, right? Because these reports are very Thailand specific reports, and we had to reconcile. Earlier what was being done manually was, the process was to take in the data from these regulatory reports and reconcile that against the financial statements, right? Against the information which is there in the financial statements, right? And the auditor's reports and notes to accounts. Yeah, getting exposed to a new geography which will have new kinds of regulatory reports, I think that is par for the course in our business. we have to get involved in those reports. The what helps us is that broadly we understand this domain, and broadly we understand the regulators requirements, right? So it could be an F45 report in Thailand, whereas it could be different disclosure documents in India or in Middle East, right? But broadly, when you're working with these documents, there can be differences here and there, which we get to know through our clients themselves, right? But it's not that we are new to the world of disclosures. It's not that we are new to the world of the regulatory documents, right? Of course, there are minor differences which we have to figure out on the way, and many times the clients are very open in sharing all that with us, because they do understand that, for us to know the exact contents of the F45 document which comes out in Thailand may be a little difficult. But yeah, we are involved in reconciliation of information within the documents, right? So we are not a structured data reconciliation engine, but we do reconcile information between documents, right? And one of the documents for in their case is the F45, but we do know the other side, which is the auditor's report, the notes to accounts, as well as the financial statements, right? So broadly, yes, it's we need to be open to figuring out the new documents, but it is that, I would say, is not so much of a challenge.
You touched upon earlier when we were talking about the connectivity issue that uh, large part of that impact was felt during the pandemic. Now, my issue is here. One, you are dealing with financial institutions in multiple geographies. Then many of these you were dealing with from the pre-pandemic times, and the other part is a business model where you are saying, in many cases, you are working with the large technology system integrators where you are handling, where they are looking at the financial clients and you are handling them. So
Right.
now these three, if we juxtapose them, it's a complicated situation, and there are certain SLAs which were drawn pre-pandemic times.
Right.
Now, during the pandemic, since many of the working has to evolve dynamically, how were the SLAs impacted? And I'm talking more since it's the financial sector, the SLAs are even more pertinent. So,
Right.
how
Right.
were those SLAs impacted?
So fortunately for us, we did not have to renegotiate our SLAs. We could continue with the same SLAs that we had signed up for pre-pandemic, right? So what we have noticed is that the connectivity problems that we have faced, right? These are issues. Whenever they have happened for a short period of time, not enough to mean a renegotiation of the SLAs, right? So, and I think to that extent, I would say that things have kind of worked out well. In some ways, we have noticed a level of flexibility as well from our clients, because many times, when the connectivity is poor, there is an understanding on the other side also that, in general, they've been getting the right kind of support from us, right? So many a times, when it is not a pressure situation, we've had we've seen flexibility also from our client side as well. So we've not had a situation where we had to renegotiate the SLAs.
And another question on pandemic impact, which I'd like to understand, is in terms of the businesses. So, from a capital quant perspective, how did you balance between one is acquiring new customers, and on the other hand, sort of, if I may say, broadening the depth of engagement with the existing customers. So, how was it? Was the focus on
Yeah.
still acquiring newer customers, or maybe increasing the engagement level with the existing ones?
That's a very interesting point that you raise because, so I would say the short answer is both. And the reason why it is interesting is because during the pandemic time, what we have noticed is that most organizations have started thinking about, automating their processes. Digital transformation has been a key initiative in most organizations, which has been getting the right kind of push, right? So I would say that the pandemic has resulted in a thought process in every organization that the way we are going to work and the extent and the kind of automation that we are going to bring into the organization, right? That thought process has got a lot of momentum, so much so that there are actions being taken by many organizations. We are seeing a lot of new requirements as well. We are also seeing requirements within our existing client organizations. So it's both upselling requirements that we see within our client organizations, as well as new requirements which are actually coming into us from new clients. So it's both. What we are seeing is a combination of the two, and maybe it's because of the pandemic that the world is forced to think in terms of moving on the path of automation.
Okay, thank you. So the last question I would ask is that one, there are quite a few financial solution providers. So, what would you rate are your unique differentiators or USPs, if I may say? And
Sure.
also, if we look at the next, say, 3 to 4 quarters, what are
Mhm.
going to be your key focus areas?
Right. So, in terms of differentiators, we do see a lot of organizations come up with solutions, point solutions for a single document type or a single process where cognitive automation is being applied on the unstructured documents. Where we become differentiated is that we can cover pretty much any document under the sun, right? So we have the product, we also have the platform where a user who does not know machine learning can build a machine learning model, right? So just by training the system, and the training does not require any kind of knowledge of machine learning, right? So what we have to offer is a very comprehensive solution. So today you are looking at automating one process, right? But tomorrow you may want to extend the same system to another process. But in most of the uh, other competitors that we see, they pick up one process and they do just that particular document type, or they add one or two more documents on top of that. Now what happens as a result of that is that as an organization you have to take a decision on having multiple point solutions or having one solution which can cover pretty much all your needs, right? So that is one key differentiator that we offer. Secondly, many times we notice that there are organizations who are offering these services which are purely on cloud, right? Which does not work with in this particular segment. It may work in the other segments, but it's not like the same can be applied to directly to this particular segment, right? So that becomes the key. And thirdly, there's a very clear focus on the financial services industry. So there are solutions from very large technology players who offer horizontal solution, which can cover any kind of a cognitive need, whether in healthcare or in the financial services. Now, the effectiveness of those solutions is the jury is still out on the effectiveness of those solutions, right? So for us, because it is getting into a single domain, because the models are very, very specific to that particular domain, right? We do have an edge over the large technology players as well, because for them to build and invest a lot in just one particular segment is a challenge, as a result of which they come out with something which is going to cover the it's like boiling the ocean, which is why such initiatives, we believe that such initiatives have a challenge, because the technology is not at a level at which it can cover anything under the sun. So these are some of the key differentiators that we have.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate
Thanks
you
a lot.
taking your time, and have a good day. Thank you.